Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight, and welcome to the 2017-2018 Budget Town Hall meeting for the Las Cruces Public Schools. Before we hear from our superintendent tonight, I'd like to take a moment to introduce our members of the school board who could attend tonight. First, we have our president, Maria Flores. Our vice president, Ed Frank. And our member, Terry Dahlman. We also want to thank Maury Castro and Ray Jaramillo. They're very important members of the board. They couldn't attend tonight. So we will have a 1-hour presentation, and we want to be sure and leave enough room to give you some time to ask your questions from the audience, and we have several questions that have come in from emails. And those who are here tonight, if you could come to the microphone in the center of the room when you're ready to ask your question. And thank you again for coming, and at this time I'd like to introduce the Superintendent of Las Cruces Public Schools, Dr. Gregory Ewing.
Well, thank you and good evening. Welcome. I've got 2 bottles of water. I have a lot of talking to do. First, thank you for coming. And before we begin, let me say, where is Crystal? There she is. So to Crystal Valdez and her entire department, we wouldn't be here without the work that you have done. And I greatly appreciate what you have done and what you've put together. I get to stand here and read a PowerPoint that makes me look good, but it's your work. So thank you so much. So can we give the financial service? And I think Dr. Serrano is covering an event at Centennial High School. There he is. All right, Dr. Serrano is in the back, and Ms. Martinez is not here with us. We have Dr. Wendy Miller-Tomlinson. I want to give a certain shout out to Instruction and Human Resources for the work they have put into what I call the allotment process of the budget. So thank you to both those divisions. And then finally, I wouldn't be complete if I did not say thank you to the Las Cruces Public Schools Budget Committee. I don't know that you knew what you were getting into when you signed up to be part of the Budget Committee, but those Budget Committee members, if you're in the audience, would you stand, our Budget Committee members? So you have met and heard more about the budget and probably could do a better job than I standing here speaking tonight. So on behalf of my office, on behalf of the executive cabinet, and on behalf of the district employees, thank you for what you did with the budget committee. We couldn't have done this without you. And so now I'm going to begin the presentation. So Bill, if we are ready. I think as we begin, let me just begin by saying what happened in 2016, 2017. This was a difficult year for us. New Mexico revenues were falling short. The district was forced to return state funding. What did we have to return? From the SEG, we returned $2.7 million back to Santa Fe. From transportation, we returned $500,000 back to Santa Fe. And from instructional materials, we returned $191,000. Those were significant. In order for this district to remain solvent, when we returned those funds, we instituted from this building a complete hiring freeze. All vacancies remained unfilled, and we stopped most spending within the district. We were then told that we could have to return an additional $3.5 million from the reserve funds. That panicked us. I'm happy to report to you today that we did not have to return the $3.5 million, and as you see our budget, we were able to use those funds to present to the board for their consideration a balanced budget. As we go forward to the 2017-2018 budget, what did we want to do when we put this budget together? What were our priorities? The first priority was to develop a balanced budget. The second was to protect classrooms. The third, to streamline central office personnel. And the fourth is to maintain a cash reserve and actually call it a cash reserve as a line item in the budget. So this is what we looked at. These were our objectives, and these were the missions of the Budget Committee as they began working throughout the year for this very difficult process. What do we have with a budget proposal? For the fiscal year 2018, this budget is the result of financial goals and recommendations provided not only by the school board, but by staff, students, and the community. What we're presenting today is a draft budget. Our board members will have from now until May 16th to make recommendations with this budget. We are open to those recommendations. On May 16th, we'll vote for a final budget, but we are presenting to the board and to the public a balanced budget. How did we do this? We hope we did this through transparency of the budget through the superintendent's office and through the finance and the budget committees. I'm sorry to say to you, at this time, we have not recommended any increase to the salary schedules. However, I'm happy to announce to you that we do not have to implement a reduction in force of employees. I'm also happy to announce to you that we will continue our distributive leadership with collaborative practices in each school building. So what does the budget proposal look like? The first thing I'm going to talk about is the teacher-student ratios. As we look at the ratios of the number of teachers to students within the district, we left elementary at the same criteria that it was this year, 22-1. For middle school and high school, we set those ratios at 25-1. In addition, we have allocations for special education, PE, fine arts, and bilingual education that are distributed separately. Let me see if I can explain to you how this budget formula works. If a school has 600 students, we divide 600 by 25. That would give you the number of teachers for that building. We call that an all-in adjustment. We know in those 600 students, some students are special ed, some students are going to be in music, some are going to be in art, some are going to be in PE, and some are going to be in bilingual education. Those teachers are allotted separately, but we still kept the number 600 divided by 25. This actually gives the school and the principal a few more teachers than they would earn if we subtracted out each section that those students would be in separately. So I'm proud to say to you that we used these numbers, but we did them through an all-in process. Secondly, we looked here in this building to hold what we call a pool, a reserve pool of teachers. Originally, we were going to hold 20 teachers in the reserve funds. And after speaking with the executive cabinet and my friends from NEA and CSEC, they all convinced me that we should only hold 10 positions here. So I'm happy to announce to you, a week ago, we made a few principals very happy because we called them and we said, we're going to actually give you more teachers than we originally anticipated. Why did we do that? So that the principals aren't looking for teachers in August after school starts. We wanted them to build their schedules now. So we're only holding 10 positions here. Those positions are built into the budget. And as long as the legislature doesn't take any more funding from us, then we pledge to you from this building that those 10 teaching positions will be given to the schools. They'll be given based on needs of principals and requests as they come through the Instruction and Human Resource Department. What happens at the school level? Well, first of all, we wanted to be consistent and fair at every school. So hopefully I can say to you, we have consistently applied the allotment formula for teacher per pupil ratio across all schools. We have also trimmed all school and department budgets. Why did we reduce those budgets? We still aren't sure what's going to happen in Santa Fe during the special session. Instead of trimming people now, we decided to trim budgets. Then, if Santa Fe leaves our money alone, we can simply add additional funding to the operating budget in each school. We're reducing the cost of substitutes. How are we going to do that? At the central office, I'm pleased to announce, we're going back to school. So all central office employees have been told that they must serve 3 days in a school next year. If you are a certified employee, you will go in a classroom and do what I love to do every day, and that's teach. If you are a classified employee, we'll offer you the opportunity to go through substitute training, or we will offer you the opportunity to work as a secretary or a custodian or a food service worker. We want the folks in this building to see the work in our school buildings every day. And then coming in the fall, I'll come to my principal friends and I will say the same thing. I want the principals and the assistant principals to spend 3 days subbing in classrooms. We all need to remember what that classroom teaching experience is like. We will continue to hold 10 teaching positions here. Those will be held in human resources, and we will release those as needed once school starts. Remember, children don't come in bundles of 25. We're going to have exceptions as school opens and as the classrooms become overcrowded. We also have implemented a rule. When I came in December, we were still moving teachers, and so I asked that that process stop after the 10th day of each semester. So after the 10th day, we will not collapse classes and we will not move children or teachers. So we need a pool of teachers in order for that to take place. So that's our pool of 10. What's happening at the administrative level? What are we as administrators doing? Well, first, we have a reduction to all central office department budgets. That wasn't easy, but we did it. Secondly, after many fights in the executive cabinet, with my bruises to prove it, we have reduced $1.3 million in central office staff positions in this building. We're going to work with those identified employees over the next couple of weeks. We will call them into human resources and have human conversations with them. They will certainly be able to apply for any other open position within the district. We will identify a specific line item in the budget and call it a cash balance reserve. In the past, we built a budget based on positions, then we didn't fill positions and we used that money to build our cash balance reserve. But that was misleading to the public because people thought we had more positions in schools than we did. So we will actually call the line item a cash balance reserve. And I'm happy to announce that we are restoring furlough days to the final group of employees. So for the next school year, all furlough days are restored to all employees. So what does the budget look like? Now, if you can read those numbers from your seat, you're better than I am. So let's just begin to look at what happens when we look at a budget. The first thing you're going to see is general funds. You see operational, $190.4 million. You see transportation, $3.9 million. You see instructional materials, $687,000. Then under special revenue funds, you see food service, $18 million, athletics, $937,000, non-instructional support, $2.5 million. You go to the capital projects and you begin to see 20 million, 3.8, 20.8, etc. The most important thing you can gain from this slide is knowing that all of these funds operate in a silo. They're all different. They all have a different set of rules. So oftentimes when folks say, why can't we have an extra teacher in a building, or why can't we have a raise, or why can't we do this? We do have funds in the bank, but those funds are restricted by the categories listed here. And as the staff did a beautiful job in building the budget, they had to build the budget by the rules in each one of these categories. And so when you look at the bottom, I'm pleased to announce to you tonight that our total budget for the year will be $330,362,483. And we are presenting to the board a fully balanced budget. What does that budget look like from the operational fund? Well, first of all, in the operational fund, we know that we are projecting a cash balance of $10.5 million. We hope that that will come to fruition. We will know when there's a final audit conducted at the end of June. From that 10.5 million, we're going to use 7 million to keep our reserve fund exactly as it should be. Now, my financial service friends sitting here on the second row don't want 7 million. They want more. I make them very nervous with 7 million. They're operating on the least that they can operate on. And just to give you an idea, we think our payroll is about 13.9 million a month. Most school districts operate with 30 days. That's a minimum. Some operate with 2 months reserve. Texas operates with 3 months reserve. So if we were in Texas, we would have 13.9 times 3, 41 million. If we were in Georgia, we would have 13.9 times 2. And here, we're going to operate with 7 million. So why are we doing that? Because in New Mexico, there is a law for all of us that says the governor and the legislature can come into the school district when their reserve funds are in trouble, and they look at our reserve funds at either the 3, 4, or 5% level. So we never want to go above those thresholds because we want to keep our money here for the children of Las Cruces. So we're going to keep 7 million in the reserve fund. Sounds like a lot of money, but basically it keeps all the checks from bouncing each month as Crystal and her team looks at every check that goes through and payroll that goes through so that we continuously have a cash flow. We'll take the other 3.5 million from that account and use it to build the rest of the budget. Now remember, I'm presenting to you on behalf of the Executive Cabinet and Financial Services a very conservative budget. We just don't know what's going to happen in Santa Fe. As you begin to look through here, you're going to see our resources and you're going to see our expenditures. And each of these are given as a line item. All of this information is posted online at the Sunshine Portal on our website. And I have begun sharing this information. The board has this information. Our friends at NEA Las Cruces and our friends at CSEC have this information already. So everything I'm showing to you is public open record, and we're proud of that. So as you begin to look at the operational funds and as you begin to look at the expenditures in the district, all of this information is posted on the website. So you simply go to the website and click and begin studying. So what's the unknown? What will the governor and what will the legislature agree to during the special session? So that we don't know. But we know we have a lobbyist in Santa Fe. We know we have NEA in Santa Fe. We know we have AFT in Santa Fe. And so I trust Stephanie, and I trust Betty, and I trust Chris, our lobbyist. They will keep us informed. This budget will operate with us keeping the same amount of funds. If the legislature and the governor take funds from us, then we have to come back together. I will have to reduce staff. We could have furloughs. We could have a reduction in force. If a large amount of money is taken, we could have to look at every single program and every single option we have in the district. That is not something we want to do. I'm proud to say to you today, based on the current state funding formula, we have taken the money that we are entitled to, and we have developed a balanced budget that includes every program offering that we currently have in the district. And it also includes all of the teaching positions that we currently have in the district. We've worked hard to do that. But if they take funds from us, then we have an issue. So, as my friends, I ask you to follow the special session. And as teachers and as advocates and as community members, you have a voice louder than I do. So follow the session and make your comments appropriately. Principals and central office staff are prohibited from advocating for public funds while on the payroll as a public official. But teachers and community members and parents are simply that. Community members, teachers, and parents. You have a voice. We've looked at our operating funds here from the state, but what happens with our federal money? I wanted you to have an opportunity to see what federal funds look like. And so, for the coming year, these are projections. The first is our Title I allocation. We are projecting Title I funds at $7.1 million. What do we do with those $7.1 million? Well, first of all, we have to identify what Title I schools are in the district. And we have 29 elementary and middle school identified Title I schools. So we use these funds to provide supplemental instructional services. We use $3,071,000, I guess I would say, in 29 elementary and middle schools for enrichment and intervention programs, math and reading, technology. We use $829,000 for federal program departments for the salaries of 4 coordinator positions, 4 clerical positions, 6 data technicians, plus office support. This also includes benefits. We use $70,000 for parental involvement activities at school. We use $2.3 million for the salaries of 3 homeless program personnel, 6 technical support personnel for schools, for academic specialists, for content specialists, and for our Institute for Parental Involvement program. So we're using the funds for schools and for students. We use $5,000 for foster care and $7,500 for homeless program needs. We use $175,000 for the 4 private nonprofit schools in the district. We're required by federal law to share these funds. How do we decide this budget? Just like the operational budget that I'm presenting to you today, under federal guidelines, the federal department is required to publish their budget. They're required to invite folks in for conversations about the budget, and they're required to have content experts advise them on what that budget should look like. Moving on, we have a Head Start program. I'm proud to announce we have $2.7 million in the Head Start program. How do we use this funding? It's for early childhood learning for 3- and 4-year-olds. We currently serve 413 students. Early childhood learning experiences is at 12 elementary sites in 18 classrooms. We have Title II, Teacher Equality Grant, projected at $1.1 million. What do we use this for? Professional growth support for administration, teachers, and instructional assistants. Currently, we use this money to fund 12 content specialists to mentor teachers, curriculum development, and professional development here at the central office. We use it for the beginning teacher program, and we use it for summer workshops for teachers, instructional assistants, and administrators. I do want to caution the audience that Title II funding now is under review at the federal level. And so President Trump and what is that woman's name? I'll try to keep it out of my mind. Ms. DeVos. They both have said that they're looking at this funding. If this funding were to go away, this would be an unfunded mandate within our district. We would have to use $1.1 million of New Mexico money to support teacher training in the district. So this is important to us that this funding remain as it is. Moving on, we have our IDEA-B money, $7.9 million coming from the federal level. What are these funds used for? Providing special education and related services to students with disabilities. For professional development for teachers, mentoring programs for special education teachers, technology, specific special education and related services in a child's IEP, and for special education coordinators here within the district. And I'm pleased to announce to you this evening that we're working with the special education department so that these special education coordinators, Glenda, can I make my announcement? That our special education coordinators are moving out of the central office. They will be located in schools. We'll go from 8 to 12, and we will have schools divided between the 12 individuals. We will actually provide services and support in school buildings so that everyone understands the special education students' needs. Title III. Title III is my world. This is language acquisition, language enhancement, and academic achievement programs. This is for our English language learners. We have $310,000. What do we use these funds for? To assist students with limited ability in English to become proficient in the English language, enhance their development of concepts through communication in their native language, and promotes knowledge of their cultural heritage. We support professional development for teachers. We have our own bilingual department here, and from the federal government, we receive this $310,000. Title I, Migrant Education. First, let me tell you that the Migrant Department has gone from an identification of 5 students to an identification of 120 students. And I may be off by 1 or 2. That's massive for our district. We now have $120,000 in federal funding. What is a migrant student? So Title I Migrant provides resources to meet the educational needs of children of migratory farm workers, to meet their identified needs that result from their migratory lifestyle, and to permit them to participate effectively in school. These are kids who move from school district to school district based on the farm and the production of fruits and vegetables. We need to do more for these children, but we're proud that we've identified more than we've ever seen before. And finally, the McKinneyVento. Projected allocation, $45,000 of federal money. This is for homeless education within the district. Title X, Part C. I have to say to you, of all the money we're looking at tonight for homeless children, this is a very small amount. We certainly need more. We wish the federal government would give us more. We certainly could do more for them. I do want to give a special shout out. Mr. Frank and I were at Oñate High School last night. We were watching some seniors come across the stage for Senior Awards Night, and I met a homeless student on that stage. And that homeless student was given a laptop by a community member who went to Oñate and bought a laptop for all the homeless students in the school. So as I speak to you about the budget is more than just me talking to you. The budget is the community. The budget is all of us. And this simple act of an individual buying laptops for homeless students shows that Las Cruces is a community. And I hope that we can work together as we look at the budget, and I hope we remain a community with the budget. It's important. These are your dollars as well as our school district's dollars. And we all have a voice in how these dollars should be spent. Moving on to the Carl Perkins grant. This is for career and technical education. Currently, we receive $296,000. This is for to develop academic, career, and technical skills of secondary education students and post-secondary education students, for professional development of career technical education staff, supplemental support services to CTE students, for equipment, and for outreach to parents. We have a great working relationship with Doña Ana Community College, and we're telling more and more students about opportunities available to them. But I give you a caveat. Students should have an opportunity to go to any type of institution after high school. I simply do not want staff looking at students and making assumptions that you should become an electrician or a plumber or a barber or an electricity pole climber at the age of 18. They're too young to make those decisions. They need to know that those careers are there and what those jobs offer, but they also need to know that they can go to New Mexico State University and they can get a degree in art history. And they can wake up every morning and say, when I go to galleries, I'll know what those paintings are, as they look for a paycheck. But they have the opportunity to do that. I tell you that because my first degree is in classics, Latin and Greek. I cannot tell you how many conversations I had with my mother. What are you going to do with that degree? And when I graduated, I said, Mama, I need more schooling. She said, no kidding. So what did I do? I got a master's degree in Latin. At the end of that, I said, I want to continue school. And so then my mother said, please don't tell me you're going to do a PhD. And my professor said, no, you're becoming too focused. And so the idea was that I should study psychology. And so I told my mother, and she said, you've spent 6 years in school, and it took a professor to tell you what I've been telling you since the first day you went. But I had that opportunity. And a liberal arts education teaches you to think. It teaches you to talk. It teaches you to be part of society. And all of our students should have that opportunity, regardless of what they want to do later in life. So as we look at our career technical education, I'm very proud of that. And it's a wonderful component. It's not the only component, it's one of many components available to students. Next, we look at our K-3 plus state funding, projected to be $2.1 million. What do we use this for? Extended school year for kindergartners, 3rd through 3rd grade, providing quality instructional time. Currently, the program is offered in 18 schools and targeted to serve over 1,767 students. I do need to tell you that as we were planning this program for the summer, we were notified by the Public Education Department that there would be a reduction of 15% of the funds. Now look at 2.1 million. 10% would be 210,000. Take half of that would be 105. So 315,000. Crystal, am I coming close? So think about planning a program and then being told you're going to lose 315,000. But I'm happy to report to you that the staff here, the financial service staff and our instructional staff, work together to secure funds from other federal sources and to use existing resources so that we will continue our summer program with exactly the same number of students and classrooms as we had intended with the original amount. So we will not allow PED to interfere with student learning and student success in Las Cruces Public Schools. Now, what are we doing in addition to the funding we just talked about? We currently have an application on file for truancy and dropout prevention coaches. That's a $400,000 grant. We're seeking funds to maintain 6 truancy liaison positions to work with students, families, and communities to improve student attendance. We also have a grant in place, a renewal application for $2.7 million for elementary fine arts teachers. This promotes fine arts education for all elementary schools. It supports the salaries for 25 music teachers and 15 art teachers. Our applications are due May 24th. We are confident that these applications will continue to be approved by PED as they have in the past, and we are including them in the budget. We're including the teachers in the budget, and we will continue a fine arts program, and we will continue fine arts development within the district. So what are our next steps? Where do we go from looking at the budget? Well, first of all, we've presented a budget overview on a PowerPoint for you. We'll post that online. Then the budget itself is now posted online on the Sunshine portal of our own website. You can study that budget. On May the 16th, I will come before the board again and ask the board for a formal vote to approve the budget. Before May 16th, board members may have questions. They certainly may email or contact any member of the executive cabinet. We will look at any and all of their requests. We have listed this as a discussion item before we vote on the May 16th board meeting, so there can be open discussion of the budget, so that it can be open and transparent. Then we will ask the board to formally approve the budget on May 16th. On May the 24th, the legislature meets in special session. We will await the findings of that special session. But at this point, we are approving a budget and moving forward. On June the 5th, the district is required to submit its budget to the State Public Education Department. We will do that. On June the 22nd, Ms. Martinez, Ms. Valdez, and I will travel to Santa Fe. We will have a meeting with PED, and we will request formal approval and review of the Las Cruces Public Schools budget. Once the Public Education Department gives final approval, the budget is finally approved. It will then become our budget on July 1. That budget must be approved and available for the new fiscal year for all to see, and we will certainly share that. Now, I would like to take a few minutes and talk to you about staff allocations. So for the first time, we're trying something new. We are creating a staffing sheet for every school. We're going to post these staffing sheets online. I've given copies tonight to our CSEC representative and to our NEA Las Cruces representatives. What do those staffing sheets look like? So first I'll show you Rio Grande Prep. If you look, you're going to see the certified staff. It says the school has 19 certified staff, 1 counselor, 11 teachers grades 1 through 12, 3 teachers grades 1 through 12 special ed, a nurse, a psychologist, 2 other teaching positions. Then you're going to see the classified, custodians, educational assistants, clerical, security. Now you'll see early college, high school, followed by Centennial. These are the allotment breakdowns per school, per building, by either classified or certified. We're going to post all of this online so that any employee in the district or any individual in Las Cruces can see how many employees are in each school. We're trying very hard now to match up these numbers from past year's numbers, because one of our questions is, are we continuing to give more or less teachers to schools? Are we continuing to give more or less custodial positions, etc.? It's a much harder process than you would think. It's almost like comparing apples to oranges. We may be starting from scratch with this year, but it's a start. And it's the first time that we are publicizing the allotment sheets by school, by teacher, and by certified position for everyone to see, so principals can see what their other colleagues have. Now, as a leader, I believe in giving principals much latitude and a whole lot of support. And so I've said to principals, they have some options. When principals look at their allotment sheets, we will allow them to make certain changes. I'll give you an example. Let's say a middle school principal has 2 social workers, but he wants a counselor instead. We'll work with them. If we have another social worker position open in the district, we'll move that social worker and allow the principal to post a counselor opening. If a principal says, I have 2 secretarial positions, I only need 1, and I need another custodian, we will allow that. Now, that has to be carefully controlled. And I'm making the budget row nervous as I say these things. How do we control that? We have to look at those salaries. We have to be very careful. Let's say that someone wants to convert an assistant principal position to a teaching position. Well, the salary of an assistant principal is a little different than a teacher, so that might equal 1.25 teaching positions. Conversely, if they say to us they need another administrator, they can't just simply convert 1 teaching position. The dollars have to balance. But we're willing to give that a chance. We're willing to let principals be principals of school buildings. Just like we tell principals, allow teachers to go into your classroom, close the door, and teach. That's what teachers need to be doing, and principals need to be focused on their overall school building. What's best for their school? They know their buildings far better than any of us in this building. So we've given them some latitude. So as they study their allotment sheets, they're actually having meetings this week with Dr. Serrano and the Human Resource Department and with our curriculum directors from the instruction department, and they're beginning to look at their allotments and they're beginning to make some decisions. We've also worked on a couple of words of terminology. If you are hired after the first day, you were called a temporary terminate employee. Who wants to work for a year called a temporary terminate employee? So we've changed that language. We've called that a limited contract employee. We've given principals the go-ahead to post positions. We've given principals the go-ahead to begin having conversations with temporary employees now. If you want to rehire them, make the submission. We've given principals the go-ahead to move to NMSU and other universities as students are graduating from special ed programs, math and science, where we can't find teachers. Make the interview and make the hiring recommendation to Human Resources. We are holding firm, only Human Resources, the only officials who can authorize employment for anyone in the district, but principals have leadway to have interviews, to make recommendations so that we can get and keep the best qualified teachers and support staff within the district. And so now,
They're just showing the last of those schools
all right, so we have, as we continue, we're going to go to Las Cruces High School, Mayfield. You begin to see allotments in each of these school buildings identified by position. And I think what I'm going to do is now move us to the closing slide. So in closing, we have proposed a 2017-2018 budget that is lean, and that is conservative. It's a budget composed with the unknown. We appreciate the work of the District Budget Committee and the input from our stakeholders. The budget is balanced, and it's balanced on information we have as of today. However, we have a special session ahead. It's a transparent budget. You can review it online under the Sunshine portal, and the link is listed here. The PowerPoint will be posted as well. And we will post the allotment sheets as well. So all of the information will be open and transparent. And so now, I thank you for listening for the last 40 minutes and giving me time in front of you. If I'm a good teacher, I stop talking and I engage you as an audience. So what I'm going to do is move forward with answering some questions. We had some questions emailed in, and Ms. Galvan is going to help me with those. You want to come forward?
I'll put you on the hot seat. Let's begin with, if anyone has a question in the room, you can come forward, and we can start with anybody here. And if no one stands up right away, I'll just go ahead and move to one of the first questions we received on email. Dr. Ewing, it says, are you making cuts to fine arts programs?
Okay, so I can answer this question as anyone wants to move to the microphone. So absolutely not. We have no intention of cutting any programs in any schools. So fine arts are just as important as sports. And if you've ever heard me give speeches at dinners or lunches, I think you've heard me say, my mother had a rule with the four of us in the family. We all had to participate in sports and we all had to participate in the arts. It made me a stronger person. Now, I have to confess, I'm not the best athlete, and I'm not the best at music. I don't have an ear, I can't dance, I can't draw, but I learned something from being in those programs. So we will continue those programs.
Very good. The next question is, can you use the cash balance for employee salaries?
Well, PED says that we cannot. So here's what we have to do. It gets a little more complicated. We have to take the budget that we're given from PED and actually derive a balanced budget for the district. So we can take the money we have that we're going to be given for the year and build in raises, but we can't do that until we know what's going to happen in the special session. So that's why today in front of you, I have presented what we call a balanced budget with no salary increase recommended. Once the special session is over, we can then re-look at those dollars that we have, and our financial service folks are going to feel a lot better after that final audit in June 30th that actually shows them what money is actually in the bank. And then they will make that recommendation to us of what the funds are, and then we will certainly begin an engaged conversation with President Hartman and President Valdespino to see what we can do for our employees.
And the next one is, will you cut staff if the governor doesn't budge?
So that's a more difficult question. If the governor takes funding from us, our budget is built on the fact that we have all employees in the district remaining. If money is taken from us, we will have to do a reduction in force. Now, remember, our budget is 90.4% personnel. If you study school finance, most textbooks teach you to keep it at 87 to 88%. So right away, the first thing that I noticed coming here is we're a little over in personnel cost. It makes our folks nervous because we have nowhere to go. If you have to cut funding, you can't do it anywhere except with people. But we've worked very hard to keep the people we have employed where they are. The only cuts we have done are the $1.3 million in cuts from this building. Those are some vacant positions and some current positions, and we'll begin working with identified employees, but we feel very confident that those employees can, with their credentials and training and experience, can apply for other positions within the district.
That sort of relates to the next question. If you're cutting at central office and the people go back to the schools, is there truly a savings?
Sure, because if we're cutting at the central office and we're sending them back to the school, we're sending them to the school in a position that we would fill from someone on the outside, right? So absolutely we're having a savings. Plus, we are trimming the building. So we want a lean machine here. We want less money in this building. We want money in schools. We want the funding to be focused on the classroom.
I'm looking at Ms. Valdespino because I can't believe she's not asking a question. But again, if anyone would like to come forward with a question, now is the time. Will you be continuing the school police officers and school resource officers?
Sure. So in Atlanta, my last school district, we actually had a school district police force. That was very important to me that we had that. When you talk about weapons in schools, it makes everyone nervous. It makes me nervous. But the best I heard was from a board member in Atlanta who said to all of us, in a school building, there are only two types of people to shoot, students and teachers. And when a bad person comes in, we have to be ready. So absolutely, we will keep the police officers in school. We haven't cut any of those positions. In fact, we have recommended more positions with safety and security. And within the new central office reorganization, we will actually change the name of that department to public safety and have a director of that department. That's very important to me.
You have a question here.
I was under the understanding that Centennial High School and that Camino would be moving to part-time choir teachers. Is that due to budget, or is that under some other category?
Sure. So when we look at schools and we look at the number of teachers and the number of students, the first thing we do is we give those allotment sheets to the principals, like I showed you here before. So a principal will get an allotment sheet, and I see Ralph in the back. So he'll get an allotment sheet that says he has, what do you have, 60 teachers? I'm joking, right? He wishes. Do you remember your number? Okay, so he has 36 teachers. So we leave it up to him to decide how those teacher allocations will fit in the building. So this is my work with the principals. I'm very cognizant, I'll use Centennial as an example. I've responded to a few emails from parents and community members. At Centennial, the chorus program next year, if I have my numbers correct, has 78 students enrolled in the program. That's wonderful, and I'm proud of that. But 78 students in chorus is not a full-time teaching position when we have English teachers with 215 students. And Centennial being on an 8-period day with teachers teaching 7 periods, if you take 78 and divide by 7, they have about 11 students per class. So what we have to do is we have to build for capacity. So how do you build for capacity? So I was a foreign language teacher. So when I first started teaching foreign language, I was a Latin teacher. Do you know how difficult it is to talk people into taking Latin, right? But the teachers in the fine arts, the teachers in foreign language, the elective teachers, we're very good at learning how to engage students and learning how to build relationships with students. And so I went from teaching just a few Latin classes to within 5 years, we had 3 full-time Latin teachers. And then after 7 years of teaching Latin, I decided to teach Italian, and I started over and built that program up. But I learned how to engage students. So what we have to do as we look at I think the position is open, so as we look at hiring a chorus teacher for Centennial, we have to say to the principal and to the community and to the teacher, we have to hire someone who can build capacity. Now, if we do that correctly, we have the person teaching there half a day, and then we send them to the feeder middle school, and we say, start teaching chorus to the middle school students and get them engaged so they want to follow you to the high school. And so looking at 78 students, there was no way we could justify a full teaching position, but absolutely we're not going to cancel a program. Those 78 students deserve their education just like anyone else. So if we're good leaders and if we're good stewards of the money, we figure a way or we find a way to make that teacher even more successful by learning how to build a program.
Any other questions from the room? This one wants to butter you up just a little bit, I think. Right. They're so happy that you came to Las Cruces Public Schools. Don't we agree? But the next part of their question is, will you consider raises later on? Certified staff and classified truly need support.
So this is important to me. I'll never forget when I was going through the interview process, a question. It came from a custodian. And he said, I'm hearing you talk to us about what you'll do in the school district. And I hear you talking about poverty in the school district. And you're talking about working with kids in poverty. And then he said, my family's in poverty, and I'm one of your employees. I haven't forgotten that. I think about that a lot. I also think a lot about how I probably am a privileged character. I am so lucky to be the person I am and to have the finances I have and to have the position I have. But everyone deserves the same. So absolutely, we are committed. We're just waiting for the special session. We're waiting for the governor to tell us what they're going to do with the funding. And then we will simply make some recommendations to the board. Once we know how much money we have, now, I always think we have more than we do. I've learned that quickly. We will look at that and then begin to determine. So I'll get some help from Crystal. A 1% raise costs $1.4 million. A step increase for all employees costs 1.4. Okay, so we know that for every employee to move one step on the pay scale, and your pay scales are a mess, they have to be adjusted, that's 1.4 million. To give you a 1% raise, that's 1.4 million. We'll look at how many millions we have left over. Hopefully I can say that in the plural. And then we'll begin to make some recommendations. I'm also very cognizant, being a former high school teacher, I'm very concerned. Our high school teachers are teaching 7 of 8 periods a day. Really, that's criminal. We should never allow that. That means that on some days they don't have a planning period. They run to the bathroom between classes, and that's it. So we have to look at that. How much would that cost us to add positions in there? I'm also cognizant of class sizes. We stand here and I show you 25 to 1, and then I go into a school and I find a class of 35 kids. We have to begin to look at those as well. So if we're smart, we tell you how much money we have. Then we begin to give some offerings. So we ask our employees, our teachers, but I'm looking at Irma, our classified staff as well. We ask them, do you want more custodians or do you want a raise? Do you want a planning period in high school or do you want a raise? And we begin to have some real honest and open conversations. Now remember, as the superintendent, I can only make a recommendation. The school board gives the final say. But I think the school board would appreciate an open and honest dialogue between the employees and my office so that we could make a recommendation as to what we want to do. You also have to remember from a budgeting perspective, the word recurring cost. So if we give everyone a raise, then it stays in the system. It builds on the budget. It makes it more difficult in future years. So we can give everyone a raise, but then the next year if funding is cut, then we have to cut positions in order to balance the budget.
There's only a couple of questions left before you have any parting comments. One I think that you have dealt with already. It was what was taken into consideration when you're developing the pupil-teacher ratio. I think you've answered that a couple of different ways. The last one was, though, about busing, as to whether you expect any additional shortages or cuts to the busing situation.
Well, the first thing that I've learned, as you see me, all I do is drink water out here. At least I'm not drinking margaritas, right? So you have buses without air conditioning. It's a problem. It's concerning. We have to look at I think the overall transportation department. No, we don't have any intention of cutting bus drivers or cutting bus routes or cutting bus service, absolutely. I do think if we are good stewards of the money, we look at what we can do with the funding we have for transportation and make it as best as possible. But I do have to remind you, in the budget that you're going to see online, it's going to show 3.9 million for transportation. Am I close? Okay. Can you believe I have memorized those 6 pages? All right, so it shows 3.9 million, but that's not our total cost for transportation. That's the money PED gives us, and we have to budget all of that. But then we use about another 1.4 million. Am I coming close? All right, so we use another 1.4 million out of our own local funds that we could use to hire more custodians or more teachers. But so we don't even receive enough funding from the state to cover transportation as it is today. And remember, our bus drivers are outsourced, and so that's a concern and that's an issue for us as well. We want to work with them. We want to make sure they understand where we are with funding and what we can do to assist them. They're vital in bringing kids to school every day. And even though we want to say we're in the 21st century, there's still a couple of things that control school buildings every day. And if you think about it, we all went through it. The bus schedule and the lunchroom schedule. No matter what you want to do in a school building, you got to work around the bus schedule and the lunchroom schedule. And so we are committed to keeping transportation as is.
Did you have any final comments that you wanted to make?
Oh, sure. So,
Okay.
All right. Well, I think as we close, oh, yes, please, go ahead. We can hear you, Bill.
Question regarding our bus drivers. Are you looking into bringing in the bus drivers since the contract is up soon?
We've looked at the money for that, and help me, Crystal, or help me, Gabe. What did we determine it would cost us to do that?
I believe it was 2.9 in salary and benefits alone.
Okay, so if we were to bring them in-house, it would cost $2.9 million. So to give you an example, we budget $70,000 for a teaching position. Now, teachers are going to say right away, I don't make $70,000. But remember, 40% of someone's salary is benefits. So if you are hired making $50,000 a year, the district spends $70,000 a year for your position. So if we look at 2.9 million, knowing that 70,000, so 70,000, I can do 10 teachers at 700,000. I can do 20 teachers at 1.4 million. Keep doing the math. It's about 40 teaching positions we'd have to look at. So the budget that we've presented today is balanced. If we had to add that 2.9 million in, we would have to take it out somewhere else. Now, having said that, for me, I think it's more important than anything to have all employees inclusive in any organization. You feel more of a part of the organization. We've tried to reach out to bus drivers. We've had a bus driver task force, and we'll continue to do that. And we will continue to tell them, even though they're employed by the corporation, they still are part of our employees, and they serve our students every day. Okay, so I'm down to 1 minute, so can I wrap it up? Yes. Okay, so wow, it was a fast hour. I hope that we've provided you with some information with the budget, but more importantly, I hope that you feel that we've been transparent with the budget. So I encourage you to go home, look on the internet, look at the budget that we have proposed online, look at the PowerPoint we have, and look at the allotment sheets per school. And as you have questions, I encourage you to call Ms. Jo Galvan here in the central office. Her office is one of the busiest that we have. The phone rings all day long with situations that you couldn't imagine. But if you will call her office, she will begin to research the information or the questions that you're asking. And then we have opinions@lcps.net. She actually takes all of those emails and forwards them to the executive cabinet and to the school board members. So opinions@lcps.net. And as always, you certainly can email me or any member of the executive cabinet. I see in the back, Mr. Jaquez, would you stand, our Associate Superintendent of Instruction? We have Crystal, thank you. Crystal Valdez, our Chief Financial Officer. Do we have more executive cabinet? They're covering, we have school events going on tonight as well, so I know they're covering some events at schools. Well, on behalf of the executive cabinet, on behalf of the central office staff, and on behalf of the teaching and classified force in the district, I thank you and wish you a good night.